Hey folks, welcome back. It's been a few days, day 76. It's late afternoon, early evening, 20th of April 2017, and I want to talk about a couple of things. Um, I follow a lot of other YouTubers who are, the Nofap path, the Nofap journey. They're doing the Nofap experiment, if you will. And one thing that I've seen as of late has been this really like victim mentality, blaming porn, blaming the porn industry. I mean, you could replace that with whatever the heck it is that people are addicted to, but in this case, it's PMO. And I see people projecting onto this thing. Oh, if it wasn't for this thing over here, I wouldn't have all these problems. Oh, I got to get rid of that thing. Well, yeah, getting rid of PMO, we should get rid of that, but we shouldn't be getting rid of it because it's the problem. It's more so that we need to learn how to cope with things in our lives and gain mental emotional strength and really take ownership, because they're the ones making the decision to PMO. It's not that they're not having this lifestyle shoved down our throats. Maybe it'd be easier for me to say that now that I'm on day 100 and like 36 Nofap and day 76, being porn free, porn substitutes free. But I had to get to that point where, I realized it wasn't really just the physical manifestation, the actual act of, masturbation, or if it wasn't the more like mental, psychological, um, you could say like audio-visual manifestation, aka the porn, or the porn substitutes. It's something deeper than that. It's my own anxieties, um, my inability to cope with things in life that come up and cause me to feel bad, and then I'd be turning to the PMO to do that. Well, not only should we stop projecting onto the PMO and saying that the PMO is the problem, it's the culprit, it's the one that's at fault, but we need to have an honest conversation with ourselves, and I've had to start doing that. For instance, let me see. See, as of late, I've gone through this book. Now it's a little bit of a jump, but for instance, part of my honest conversation with myself, I've been going back and forth about the Goetia, the Ars Goetia from Lesser Key of Solomon, or Clavicula Solomonis Regis. It's a grimoire, but just looking at it from a magical perspective, there's an essay in here in the beginning. It's written by Aleister Crowley. It's like part of the introduction, in a sense, to the actual text. But he talks about like the initiated interpretation of magic, and how you can look at these spirits as being representative of of representative of aspects of your consciousness, of your mind. And if that's the case, then for instance, from what angle? Obviously, I believe they both exist as entities and as aspects of your mind. But hold on a second, I'm gonna go grab something. But if you look at these entities, for instance, let's assume that these goetic jinn do exist. If you were to, for instance, believe in this jinn who has let me see, has these two sigils or seals, or you're to believe in that this one exists. Well, if you look at what they're associated with, this one associated for many people with wealth and wealth magic, trying to cut a deal with the spirit to get some assistance in financial matters. Of course, that's not the only thing that this spirit would teach, or this creature would work with, but that's, if you look that one up, Bune, look up its name, that's how it's spelled. Usually most people are talking about summoning it for wealth issues or money issues. This one more for like the mechanical arts and sciences and so on. Excuse me, as well as like logic or languages, something like that. I can look it up in here again. But if you look at it from the psychological perspective, these spirits they're associated with specific human desires and needs, and anxieties or sources of anxiety and so on. And in a sense, like, to get back to the Nofap, no PMO uh, topic, the culprit is not the porn. It's not the porn substitutes. It's not even the touching yourself, the masturbation. It's really the fact that we have these anxieties, we have these sources of anxiety in our lives, and we're not learning to cope with those things and resolve those issues in and of ourselves. And in a sense, when you feed your anxieties, when you don't learn how to cope with them, they get from this sort of psychological or mental model. It's kind of like, you feed it that energy, and eventually, in a kind of sense, it does become an entity of its own, takes on a life of its own. And that's why when people try to quit things, when they try to get free of addictions, when they try to get their lives together and learn how to cope better, they end up having resistance, because in a sense they are fighting an entity. They are fighting their own personal demons that they've created, or their own personal, like, jinn or what have you. You know, I mean, in some religions they have, this belief in that people are born with, an evil spirit attached to them and also a good spirit attached to them. And it's sort of like it's kind of like the whole image of the devil on your right shoulder, or angel on your right shoulder, devil on your left shoulder. They're kind of going back and forth in their attempts to convince you to go this way or that way in life, to do the right thing or do the wrong thing. But these kinds of demons, if you will, they're the ones that we've created ourselves. And as long as we keep projecting onto the porn, the PMO, the porn industry, and saying that, oh, it's them, it's this thing, it's over here, I don't think we're necessarily going to make the kind of progress we want to make. And so we have to have that honest conversation with ourselves, and we have to stop projecting as a result, And that leads into, I guess, my second topic, which was realizing that the real source is these anxieties. And in a sense, the fact that we kind of create our own personal demons. So I'll probably put that in the topic description, but I didn't really like structure this, I guess, but I wanted to talk about the whole process of stopping your projection onto this, blaming porn, PMO, the porn industry, and the flip side of that being having an honest conversation, or not the flip side, but sort of like the extension of that, the secondary step, or the extension, the result of that being that when you start projecting, you start having an honest conversation with yourself about what's really going on. And that was like the first topic. The second topic was the fact that we're basically dealing with personal demons, in a sense, that we've created, we've fed, and in a sense, the porn addiction is like almost like a demon in and of itself. Your own sort of self-created demon that's there, and when you try to break free of it, it tries to pull you back and convince you, in a sense. So it's like, it's not really the porn, it's not really the masturbation, it's not really the porn substance, it's not really the porn industry. It all comes from us. It's all within us, within our own psyches, and as a result, it's not that that's the culprit. We have the power. We have the power to change these things, but you have to kind of have that realization and have sort of a paradigm shift, a shift in your way of thinking about things. And I've only recently had that. For like instance, like last night, I showed you these seals or sigils. I had them up on the wall, and I was trying to go to bed, and I was looking at that, and since I was like, I was feeling sort of anxieties from, not literally from looking at that, but kind of related to it, because when I would think about, for instance, this gen, or this spirit, I would think about money issues and money problems, and I wanted to work with the spirit to get those things resolved, or I would think from this one, I would think, about my issues with learning engineering subjects, and the challenges and ups and downs I've had with that. And I decided to put those away because I realized I've got to be the one to resolve that kind of stuff. Maybe part of me wants to find a way to manifest, a certain spirit, for instance, to prove that it exists or something like that, or perhaps part of me still wants to sort of cut some deal with some entity, but really, if I want to get things done, I want to have the best results and not have things, backfire and all that kind of stuff. I've got to be in control of it, and I got to be the one doing the actual work. I can't be going and, trying to cut corners and that sort of thing. And and that's why I can't be projecting. You know, we shouldn't be projecting onto the porn industry. I mean, if it wasn't for people using this stuff, there wouldn't be, you know, an industry to begin with. And part of Nofap is leaving that cycle, you know, and you stop feeding that industry. So, you know, if you really have an issue with the porn industry, then stop watching porn, stop PMOing, you know. Find out how to do that. Find out what are your real personal demons that are causing you to do that sort of stuff. And remember that they are ultimately, going back to their origin point, they are nothing more than an aspect or a part of your psyche that needs to have its issues, its pain, its suffering resolved and finished, you know? It's part of you crying out for attention, and when you don't go and give it the necessary attention, the TLC, the tender loving care, the, you know, resolve its pain, its issues, then it's like that part of you kind of does, in a sense, transform into a demon and manifest in your life through these habits and all the negative results you get. So that's basically it for my video. Yeah. I had to get it done, I had to get it put together. I thought about it a bit, but I didn't really structure it because, you know, as I'm going on, I'm getting more and more focused and more drawn into other things in life, which I think it's a good thing. You know, you're supposed to be doing that. You're supposed to be getting out of the state of being OCD about PMO and obsessed about it and just, you know, compulsively watching and compulsively spending your time. You're supposed to be doing other things, you know, because you have your life, you have your short, limited time in this world, and you should be doing far better things with it than watching other people have sex and rubbing one out to it, you know. So, anywho, thanks for watching, and I hope this has helped someone. I'm not exactly promoting people getting involved in magic. I know I'm drawn to it for various reasons, but I like the analogy of it. That kind of stuff does help me to understand these processes and what's really going on. So, anywho, thanks, and I'll see you around. Bye.